Hello, everyone, and welcome to Reframing the Pain, Season 1, Episode 7. Today, we're diving deeper into last week's guest, Cassandra Brown. In her first interview, we learned about her background, and in this episode, we get to see how her healing process really unfolds. Cassie shares valuable insights on how she discovered resources and created her healing plan. We're excited to explore her journey with you.
I just wasn't satisfied with go home and rest and sleep because I'm like, if I'm feeling this terrible, there has to be a reason. I would wake up from a deep sleep and my heart would stop. Like my heart would just stop beating, or at least I thought it was for a while. And then it would after 30 seconds, another thump, another beat. It just for whatever reason, my whole nervous system just shut down, and it made my heart rate feel like it just stopped. It felt like I had no heart rate, no heartbeat. And so over time, trying different modalities, I got in touch with a naturopath, and he was great. And it was funny because he really brought it back down to basics, which I'd never had a physician or any type of person in the healthcare industry ask me questions like, well, how have you been feeling? That's how are you stressed? What's your stress level at? Are you anxious? Those are some of the first questions he asked. And I was like, oh, yeah, no, I'm super stressed and I'm having panic attacks. And I'd never had panic attacks in my life. And I was having actual panic attacks. And so when I met with that naturopath, it was funny because he didn't do or say anything earth-shattering. It was very simple. I remember he wrote out a little a prescription for me. And he was like, you need to take this much vitamin D every day. You need to take this much vitamin C. You need to drink 7 to 10 glasses of water. You need to get outside every day. And you need to do something that brings you joy. It was very basic. Vitamin D is basic. And there was a few other little things he had recommended to get, but on a therapeutic dose. He would never suggest this to anyone else, but a really high amount of vitamin D. But it was just to get me out of that funk. And it wasn't a long-term prescription. It was just to try and then meet back up with him in 2 weeks or something. And he recommended a few dietary things that I kind of ran with because I was like, well, it's worth a shot. I feel absolute trash. So what does it matter? And so I for a brief period of time, because I'm not advocating for any diet, but for a brief period of time, I cut out any type of stimulant because my nervous system was just shot. Every vein in my body was on fire. So if it had any trace of sugar or gluten, alcohol, caffeine in it, I felt it go down in my veins. I could feel it because my nervous system was just so hijacked. I needed to reset, do a total nervous system reset.
Let's just kind of go through a typical day. Try to remember, what was a typical day? Because we're talking it's hard to really describe. You're sitting here and you're beautiful and you know what I mean, happy and but so you wake up, you have babies. This is it's a hard time of your life, having new kids. So what's a typical day? So okay, for one thing, you couldn't sleep at night.
Yeah, I wasn't sleeping much. I felt really nutty most of the time. I think honestly what saved me was connecting with people that I trusted. So I spent a lot of time with a friend and her little guy, same age as Winnie. And by then Margot was in school throughout the day. So what really helped was consistent routine and consistent predictable activities. So at that point I'd already I'd started reading a bunch about all kinds of things. And one of them was so basically what I did is I honed it down to the basics. I treated myself like I was a newborn baby.
Oh, this is
Yeah,
interesting.
I
Okay.
did. And so I gave myself, I created what was called sleep hygiene. So I read about that. So that's where when you have a little baby, you remember bedtime routine. You give him a bath, you read a book, you change the diaper, give him a bottle, bed, right? So it's a consistent routine for your baby. And then eventually your baby learns, oh, now it's like what's coming up next. And then they go to sleep. So I basically did that for myself.
So what did that look like?
So that looked like putting the kids to bed, whatever time that was for Winnie. I think it was like 6:37, Margot 8. And then that's when I would put my phone away. And then I would have like tea or watch a show with Jeremy or have a bath or a shower, something like that. And then I would go, and I'd never done this in my life. Then I would go in my room and do these like funky little vagus nerve exercises where you like look up here and look up here. And it's supposed to like, when you focus your eye on one side and another side, it's supposed to help something with your brain and your vagus nerve. So I read up a bunch about that. And I did these like nighttime routine exercises. And then I would go to bed. So these like very predictable things I never did before. So that was like a layer. So now I have this layer. Then I was consistent with what the naturopath told me to do, drank lots of water, took the things he said.
Your diet.
And I
caffeine.
really, what I did is this, and I think this was the key. I eliminated anything that brought me stress.
Okay.
Took it out. And that's hard to do when you live in a little town and you have your little kids and, but if it brought me stress, didn't do it. I treated myself like a little baby. I was like, today I can't, I won't, until I could build up my nervous system again. And then in that time, I also, changed up my diet a little bit, was like taking lots of vitamins and doing all those things. I do like 2% of what I used to do. There was still like a physical thing wrong. It wasn't all just in my head. There was actually something wrong. So I was getting so basically my full-time job, other than taking care of my kids, was actually even taking care of myself.
Right.
It was so much time to feel better so I can get through the day. And I was super fortunate that I had the circumstances to do that. Because people out in their everyday life who have a full-time job or taking care of, maybe they're taking care of an elderly parent or more problems that they have to deal with, wouldn't have that time to take care of themselves. But I just I hit it.
So is this still residual from the COVID? So you actually were diagnosed with?
I was diagnosed with long COVID and I
Right.
was sick for 1 solid year. And the naturopath had told me that it could take up to 2 years for you to heal completely, because that is the cycle that your body goes through after a major illness.
That's so funny. I say that about any major, like if your shoulder goes, it's a year.
Yeah.
Your hip goes, it's a year.
Yeah, apparently. And these are all things that are common knowledge in the healthcare industry, but we just don't know.
No,
but
it's so
after
true.
COVID, a lot of understanding came out, and it's all stuff that's been around forever, but we just didn't pay attention to it.
We didn't have to.
We're
fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's what he said. He said after any major viral infection, it can take the body up to 2 years to fully heal. So if you have any other health problems on top of that, then it makes it that much more complicated.
That's so true.
But in that time, that's when I, did all those things that we just talked about. But then I also became highly fixated and interested in the emotional side of things.
Once you do start to understand the role emotions play in our physical pain, you can't go back.
It's like putting a pair of glasses and all of a sudden you're like, oh,
so
that's
true.
why this is happening. I did start to really see it in others in such a different way. And if anything, it allowed me to have a layer of empathy and compassion that I did not have before.
100%.
And that was something that was actually that was early on. That was one of the big takeaways. When I was really sick, all of a sudden, all of these people that didn't play a role in my life in any way, I started to see them so differently because you gravitate towards people who are going through something difficult. And I started to learn about those ones. And all of a sudden I was like, oh,
that's why.
And you start to look at them so differently. And I learned a lot about a lot of people. So throughout that that year of not feeling good at all. I still feeling unsatisfied basically with what had happened.
Yeah.
Like what the hell just happened?
Mm-hmm.
Even if I was feeling quote unquote better, I was doing so much just to maintain a sense of balance that I was like, this is not like a sustainable way of living forever. Mm-hmm. But anyways, in that time when I was like, really pushing the doctor side of things, because that's all we know, right? We're like, oh, you don't feel good, go to the doctor. The doctor says, I don't know what the problem is, go see a different doctor. And then you go, and then we'll go see a cardiologist, I'll go see a neurologist. Like you're always just trying to find the person that knows what they're doing to tell you what's wrong with you. So it took 2 years for me to finally get in to see a neurologist. And at that point I'd had an MRI and there were findings in my MRI, but because no one knows what this disease is, it just kind of stayed there. But I really pushed it. And I was like, well, there's findings in my MRI of calcification in the brain, known as a very rare neurological disease called FARS, FAHRS. And so
And you noticed that?
It was in my MRI, yeah.
And you were the one that brought it up.
Yeah, because still during this time, COVID was still like wreaking major havoc on the healthcare system. So unless you were like dying or mid heart attack, you were prioritized. you just weren't. And that's just how it was. Like, and I'm just thankful I didn't have cancer at that time or something else, because we heard horror stories of people just not getting overlooked because they were so saturated with the health. Obviously now we know everything is broken. So yeah, things kind of took a back burner, but I pursued it and wanted to get some answers.
So you saw it on your...
I read my MRI. I read the MRI and I was like, oh, what is this?
And you've never heard of that before?
No. And so I did my own research on the disease and it was scary because I was like, oh, great. Debilitating, progressive, rare neurological disease that can manifest in someone either completely losing their mind, so major behavioral issues, or eventually being in a wheelchair and having no cognitive physical function. So I was like, cool. Like it was a really, really scary time in my life. The more research I did on that disease, the more pain was coming back.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. And from what I understand of the disease, there's no cure, there's no pill, there's nothing. And when I finally did see a neurologist, he took one look at it and he's like, yep, never heard of this disease, so must not exist. I was like, okay, well, you're super helpful too. So I built a little bit of a wall with the healthcare industry because I was like, no, actually, no one really knows anything.
This is a good point. It's very true.
Like they
people,
know
humans, therapists,
they're kind of guessing a lot. There's a lot of guesswork with taking care of
so
people.
I remember you were getting every therapy, every test. You had doctor's appointments coming out. You were also during this reading books and actually doing the work.
I forgot about the books I read.
Some people can read books, but they don't do the work. You were so driven to heal that you were doing all this work. You had all of this knowledge. And I remember you just wanted to be better. You were just not okay to be not okay.
I felt like I had no control. That was something I could control.
Oh, yeah.
That was what really got me.
And I remember kind of saying to you, okay, I want you to take all of this knowledge and now I want you to bring it inside and trust your gut and who you are with your experiences and just get to know you. Because yes, nobody knows. They don't have time. They don't know your experiences. Yeah. They don't know what you're going through, but you do. And you took that and, you really did do that. You went inside. And so this is kind of where you started to do this research. Yeah. So it was really
between getting help with doctors and such, there's lots of waiting. Yeah. Right. There's lots of waiting around. There's lots of call this person at this time and maybe they'll help you here. So I just got my hands on whatever I could when I could. That was free. That was available.
This is actually one of the things when I was thinking about who I'd want to interview for a podcast, why this reason right here is why I am just so enamored by your story because you did the research and you would come back to me and be like, Heidi, there is this free course. I'm like, free course? Like, how come I didn't know about this?
Well,
when
and
I was trying to heal?
there's actually free information to anyone. Like the library is there for everybody. And I think not, and none of this is new. This is all information that's available to anyone. But I think what really helped me was that I felt like I had control when I could learn about my brain. Because when you read something like you have a progressive neurological disease that is incurable and you will ultimately die from, it's so insanely jarring that you're like, it's hard to put into words, but I was in a state of fear for assault like another year after that, because the more you hyper focus on something, the bigger it gets. So the more I thought about this disease, the bigger it felt, the more debilitating it felt, and the more I felt crippled by it, even though I was feeling relatively okay at the time. I just kept thinking about the future and like, what's my future going to look like, and how's this going to be? And so when I took a sidestep from learning about that and learning more about how my brain works, how my brain and pain are correlated, how I can improve in my negative thought patterns, how can I help my kids, how can I help my community by learning about this, all of a sudden, all of these unknowns with this disease don't feel as scary. And subsequently, my pain eventually started to dissipate.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So it was a process. It wasn't done overnight. It took some time, and I recognized that I was interested in learning this stuff because I am a really practical person. So the more I was learning about these things and I could incorporate them in my family life right away or for myself, all of a sudden it was like clicking. And I even had an interest in it. It didn't feel like work, because when you're doing things to help improve yourself and your family, it didn't feel like work.
So true.
And there's no pill that was going to replace this.
So what is this?
So you
started like Googling, or how did it come about that
actually,
you even
I think
found
with
all
this program, this is through Canadian Mental Health Association. And that you can get through with your family doctor, I think all over Canada. So with your family physician, there's a program called Bounce Back. It's basically a self-derived, pretty much like cognitive behavioral therapy, but you do it on your own. And they give you little booklets and you do your little exercises on it. And I think every week you get a call back from a community worker, healthcare worker, and they call you and you go through it together. So it's not like psychotherapy or therapy in that way. It's all self driven and again, you have to put in the work. No one can do this for you. And then from there, I just got excited about it. I was like, oh, there's this whole website called the Canadian Mental Health Association. Never heard of it, which it's for all of Canada. And within the program, there's something called the Recovery College. It's all online. And this particular one was based out of Calgary. And because it was COVID and we were still not doing a lot of things in person at this point, I took advantage of the online courses. And they were basically group sessions with other people that you can sign up for. And they were all on Zoom, and you can have your camera on or not. And then someone from the Canadian Mental Health Association, like one of their workers, would basically manage the class. And it was just an opportunity to talk about different topics. So depending on which one you chose, that would be the theme of they're called workshops, basically. Cool. And they were broken up into, some of them were 4 sessions. So once a week on a Thursday for 4 Thursdays, and you would develop a theme. So one I really liked was on learning on how to build boundaries. I didn't know what a boundary was. I think many of us don't know what a boundary is. So, and what was kind of neat when I signed on to these workshops is the people that were in these workshops, a lot of them were doctors ordered. So some who are recovering from some type of addiction, whether that be alcohol or drugs or whatever, maybe they were ordered to do these workshops. So they were kind of like, because it's called the Recovery College. So it was interesting because it was available to these people who need it. But as I started doing these, I was like, literally every human being needs this.
It's so true.
and I felt empathy for the ones who were learning about these things in the state that they're in, but me coming into it with a different background, I thought, boy, if they learned this prior to whatever it is they're struggling with, it wouldn't have led them that way.
It's like prevention.
It was totally prevention.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really loved that. And I became really passionate about it. And it was free. And it came with little worksheets that you could do on your own after, and little videos. And it was just a really, really good program.
So is this kind of what started perpetuating your like self kind of healing?
Yeah.
You started to understand your brain, you started to understand your body.
Yeah.
And then it would reduce the fear that you felt for many things.
For a lot of
COVID,
things.
for your kids, for your disease, for, you know
Everything,
what I mean?
yeah.
Like
one thing I learned, and I love it, was one of the first things I learned was called radical acceptance.
Okay. Love it.
And
I've never heard of this. What is it?
It's just to radically accept the things you cannot control. It seems really simple, but once you do that in different aspects of your life, even with your health, like I radically accept that I have perhaps this disease that may one day take my life. Throw it away. So it's accepting the unknown and not allowing it to make you trapped. So there's just a lot of things like that. And they're just these little tweaks of like reshaping my thoughts in a just slightly different way that really helped. It's all things we know.
Okay, so even like do something every day that finds you joy. Go outside, do this.
Connect with people.
We sometimes like our health or our pain, you know, we run to someone to help, which is literally my career. No, I'm just kidding. But it's like, yes, you should connect with help. But like what I love about your story is actually the true healing came and you didn't have to pay the true healing. You needed, well, I mean, I'm speaking for you, I guess, but so I can't speak for you. But it's like you kind of needed someone to help get you out of that. But like your true healing was free. You put in work. You didn't have to pay for it, but you did it with your time.
I did it with my time, but I also recognize that we all innately have that ability. You just kind of have to dig a little bit to do it. We all can, honestly. So true. And that's really what I learned throughout a lot of this process was that we all have the ability to do it. We were created that way. We're actually created to heal if we have enough time to do it in the right circumstances. So right now it's not ideal, but if you can create an environment for yourself where you can come out of it, you really can. External factors play a key for sure, but
we are healing machines. Like that is literally the only thing the body does is constantly just heal.
It is, yeah, I know.
So you, even if you're going through something terrible, you're like your body wants this.
Yeah.
You just have to input the right things.
At the end of everything is I'm actually really grateful for this experience that I had, like even the experience of feeling like garbage, because I know that as we get older and things are going to continue to happen, I'm really grateful I went through this experience because I look at pain differently. I look at possible illnesses differently. I look at, like, it doesn't feel like a death sentence to me anymore. At the time it really did, but now it doesn't. And I still don't know where this disease is going to go or where it's going to take me because it is a very slow progressing disease. Most people don't find out they have it until they're quite a bit older. It's like a geriatric thing. It is. It's like an old person's disease. It really is. But because I happen to know about it younger, I can implement these changes, lifestyle changes in my life now rather than in 30 years when I find myself in a pretty bad situation.
And if you never would have went through all of this, you would never
I would have never known. I would never known. And Heidi, I haven't had a chance to tell you this.
I'm excited.
Well, so my dad has my dad's been clean and sober for about 15 years now, made lots of changes, and he's now no longer the person that he was when I was young. So my parents are very happy, and he's made lots of incredible changes to get to where he is now. He was in a pretty bad car accident 2 weeks ago.
Oh, no way.
And he completely trashed his truck. And this is maybe the third time now where he just passes out driving. not falls asleep, like just
Blacks.
blacks out. And he like this last accident like really could have taken his life. All throughout my dad's life, he's had so many brain issues that have led him to making poor choices like substance abuse and alcohol abuse and things like that, because that's what people do when they feel out of control. They do silly things like that, and then they get stuck in that loop. So I didn't go that route. I just probably was just like stuck in a loop of anxiety and whatnot. So all throughout his life, he's had a lot of these struggles, and he is going to get an MRI to find out what's wrong, because I suspect he has probably the same disease, because it is genetic. So we don't know yet, but just based on all the things that have happened throughout his life, and just there's certain things that are very, very similar between him and I that I'm like, it's undeniable. So we'll find out soon enough. But I've been able to like help in a way where I've just like,
So
I've been able, because he's an older man in his 60s. He's not a healthy guy. He smoked for 45 years. Like, you know, he's made lots of good spiritual changes to make his life better. But on a physical level, he's dealing with the aftermath of living a hard life. And now he's presented with a serious problem. He lost his license. He won't be able to drive until they find out what's going on with him. But I've been able to like share with him my experience and like basically tell him like, you need to do like just what you need to do.
Like,
and it's kind of coming full circle.
That's what I was just thinking.
Because, you know, he has you know, thyroid problems and heart problems and his sleep apnea and lost his license and doesn't feel well. And now he's suffering with PTSD from the accident. It's really bad, really bad. And he's had issues with psychosis before, which is also something that happens with someone who has FARS, like psycho, and not understanding where it's coming from. So I've been able to just like share with him like on a calm level, like this is what you need to do, like you're gonna be okay. So it's been like a weird, and this just happened in the last couple weeks. So it's kind of like brought me, because I haven't thought about my disease in about a year now, because things are stabilized, and I got a second MRI done in January, and there's been no growth, which is so motivating to me, because that means in 3 years between 2021 and 2024, end of 2024, there's been no spreading of calcification or any growth. So that means that whatever I've been doing the last 3 years has been helpful.
Right.
And it gives me a lot of hope. And so now I'm able to kind of transfer that over to my dad and try to help him like step by step. So
and
to
I
be
do
continued.
know, like, yeah, no kidding.
To be continued. Yeah.
Amazing. But like, if you never had those experiences, like this is why I'm so passionate about reframing pain, because like, even if it always is so horrible when you're going through it. But like now, like for me, that's why I'm so motivated to do this podcast, because now if I get myself in a situation, I can keep myself so much more calm than in my 20s. It literally like you felt like a death sentence if something happened to me. You don't want to be that dramatic, but your brain just doesn't have anything else to go on. If you didn't know any of this and hadn't been through this, if this happened to your dad, you'd be like, what is, and now you're like, no, it's okay.
Gonna be okay.
This is what we're gonna do, and I will support you through this. And like, such a gift. Like, it is such a gift. Like, I really believe that true growth only comes from being in pain.
It's true.
If we weren't, we would just tootle through life.
Yeah,
and
some can go through their lives like that for a considerable amount of time, but then something always happens at some point
that you're gonna
have to deal
something.
with. Yeah. And one thing that I really kind of honed in on, or in the early days of feeling really sick, is I kind of had this like kind of mantra in my mind all the time is, if you calm your brain, you calm your pain. And it worked every time. It really did.
We need a t-shirt.
Yeah, it really did. So if I calm down,
awesome.
and if there's certain things that calm your brain, it literally calms your pain. Because your pain, like the neurons in your brain, are what dials up and down your pain receptors. And I learned about that. So throughout all of this, I became really interested in learning about just my brain and how the brain works and how it's so correlated to pain. And it gave me back my power, and it felt good. And it helped me with my kids. It helped me with like my parenting. It helped with all aspects of your life. So yeah, I think whenever people go through something really difficult pain-wise, there's a lot to learn from it. And as my mom says, this too shall pass. She always says that. This too shall pass, yeah. And you do learn, yeah.
You said I had to have no stress. So
yeah,
obviously we can't live a life with zero stress.
That's right.
Things are going to come up. Things are going to happen. So tell me kind of like about a typical time now when you feel a stress coming on that you don't have any control over, or like, so what does a typical like time period look like if something does happen to you?
So,
right,
like many people know already, you can train your brain. So you can physically rewire your brain. So you can rewire your thinking patterns. And I worked really hard on honing in on negative thought patterns and negative thought loops and ruminating and hyperfixating on something that I know is going to cause me stress and anxiety. So I worked really hard on that. I still am always working on that. But our brains are plastic, essentially, and you can keep working at it and keep changing the way it thinks. And I worked, and with learning about these things, it was like a protective layer of just putting positive things in my brain rather than negative ones. And so when a stressful situation would occur or will inevitably occur, I found myself thinking differently. And it wasn't perfectly done, but it helped. So I don't get the same like physical response anymore to something upsetting, because I did for a long time. One thing that really, so once I kind of was working on myself a lot, I recognized that the way that I had been parenting was not working. And it was right in front of my face all the time because Margot was developing some problems and anxiety. So we know for certain Margot has anxiety. We're working with her. She's still very young, so we know that that's going to be an ongoing issue with her. And so I kind of like, once I was kind of or at least I thought I was done with myself, I honed in on my parenting. So I took a parenting course. And because I was so desperate to help her, but also make our family life more peaceful. And I reached out to a family doctor, and she told me about this program that's available to parents. But there's like a 12-month waiting list. So I was like, sure, put me on the list. So the program was called Parenting Through Change. Again, through your family doctor, through the Canadian Mental Health Association. And this was a 8-week-long course.
Wow.
And you sign up for this, and it is mandatory camera on, because it was done on Zoom.
Wow.
And it was with 2 therapists teaching the course, basically. And then you had all these parents, and they group you in with parents that are going through the same situation with the same kind of age bracket as all the other parents. So again, I found really helpful to find a community that was going through what I was going through, or had an understanding of what I was going through, to help me go through it. I learned essentially how to parent a child with higher needs than maybe the next one. And that really, really helped. And then I started implementing the changes right away. And Jeremy was on board too. And they were 2-hour sessions every week for 8 weeks. And they would give you like little worksheets, and they would send you a little homework, contact the facilitators and ask them questions. And right away, you're implementing these tools to help parent better. And my main takeaway from the whole thing was, why doesn't every parent have access to this?
Yeah, no kidding. It should be mandatory before you leave the hospital.
And a lot, yes, honestly.
Or
and
the last 8 weeks of your pregnancy, you have to do that.
It was so good. And a lot of it, again, was just tweaking your wording just a little bit. And and again, coming from a household where we didn't know how to talk to each other, and we didn't know, like, there was lots of yelling and just like, so, and it gave me confidence that I was like, yeah, I can relearn this right now, even though I already have 2 kids.
That's so cool.
And my kid at this point, Margot, was probably 8 or 9, probably 8. Yeah, 8. And I can still like implement these changes and make improvements. And we noticed a huge difference in Margot. So that's kind of how I approach a problem now, is instead of like freaking out, I look at how can I, like, what can I do to make this better? I know resources are there. You do have to do a little bit of digging, but they're there.
And then what happens when you are faced? I guess what I'm trying to say is, how do you self-regulate?
Oh, okay.
Like self-regulation of, for me, I know what I can take. And like, if I let myself get too deep into a situation or get too stressed out, it will be very bad for my body.
Yeah.
I will literally get thrown into physical pain for weeks and weeks and
Yeah, it'll
weeks.
remind you.
So I had to learn how to self-regulate. So how do you do that for yourself?
Yeah, I prioritized so once my mental and emotional health was like kind of honed in on, then I made it my full-time job to continue, because there's always more layers that you can add. And that's when I took a step back from full-time volunteering. And I loved that, and it suited me well, and me and my family for many years. But I took a step back from that just a little bit, and prioritized my physical health. And I joined a gym, and I say no to a lot of things that could potentially like help us earn more money or a different thing. So I threw myself into that to a reasonable degree. But in the past, I would be like, well, no, like, we don't have time for this. We don't have money for this. But if I'm not capable of functioning as a human, then it doesn't matter
It's so true.
how much money we have or don't have.
And also social media plays, I know.
Yeah, every once in a while I do a social media cleanse. I think my longest stretch was like 6 months or something.
And you're really good at social media.
I enjoy it. I just enjoy it. I do it for fun. All in the summertime.
Follow her garbage.
Yeah, I haven't done a garbage dinner in a while. I remember one summer I took completely off. I think that was summer 2024 was the first summer that I didn't work at all. And I just stayed with the girls, and it was our funnest summer ever. And I realized that like that little bit of extra money that I was bringing in with cleaning didn't make or break us anyways. Again, these are all my own pressures. Like Jeremy's, like I have a very unique situation where like I don't have to work, and I can, and like we can get by without it. But I decided not to, because I was taking them to all my cleaning jobs, and they were like, no, they hate it. And you
were like, okay, this is causing us stress in our family.
Yeah, so I'm not doing this anymore. And all of a sudden, I actually didn't have nearly as much anxiety as I normally would in the summer, because that's when I find it hard. Kids are out of their routine, we're out of our routine, and all of a sudden, it's like a little bit chaotic up here because everything's different. And we had such a nice summer. And so I remembered that from the summer before. I was like, okay, well, that worked really well. I'm not going to go back to hustling and working and trying to find babysitters. Let's just take the summer off again. And it's awesome. So when you know something is working well for you and everyone's happy, just stick with it. And if it needs to change, then you change it. So I feel like I approach life differently, where if it's not working, there are ways to make things better.
That's awesome.
I don't know exactly what it is in the right there, like, but if you take a minute, there are ways. And I think I spent a lot of my life just like pushing through, not really thinking about it, and dealing with the problems after, but then creating a lot of the problems myself by not just like taking a minute and being like, what can we do here?
It is so inspiring, because like that wasn't any major big advice you just gave, but it's tangible for everyone.
Yeah.
Every mom out there, every person who's stressed out in their job, step back.
Yeah. Take a breath.
Take a breath, learn, grow,
And the world will go on. Things
It'll
will go
be
on.
fine.
Like if
It'll be fine.
you turn off your social media, everything will be okay. If you
That's so true.
if you distance yourself from a relationship or a situation that's causing you stress, it's going to be okay. You don't have to cut things off entirely, but if you need to remove yourself a little bit to preserve your peace, it's going to be okay. And half the time nobody notices.
What would you tell your younger self as advice? So you met your 18-year-old self and you're just moving out and
horrifying.
What?
I'd like to, can I go back 5 years?
Okay, what
Only
would you
5
tell
years?
5 years?
I think I would just say don't give up and keep trying. I know that sounds so cliche, but it's true. Like, and I have this like another funny mantra that I like to say all the time is you stop, you die. Like if you stop trying, you fall apart. If you stop doing the things that make you feel good and healthy, you got to keep putting one foot in front of the other. Don't just like be okay with feeling terrible. There are ways to get and feel better. And I think when people are in the throes of pain, whether that be physical pain or emotional pain, it's really hard to see past that. So it's easy for me to say, but it's really difficult in those moments to see past that. But I am a spiritual person, and I spent a lot of time in prayer, like so much. And I saw so much evidence of a creator in my life because I saw these like kind of little openings of what I can do next. And it really does come full circle. And we are all so connected to the people around us, to nature, to our kids. Like they feed off how we feel. Our friends feed off how we feel. So we're really all we're little social beings, and we're very, very connected. But in those moments where you feel really desperate, there is moments of clarity. You just kind of have to pay attention to it. And if you're not paying attention to it, your body screams at you.
It's
so if it's not
true.
if it's not something spiritual that's giving you a nudge, it's something physical. It will tell you, like, this is not working. You need to stop and do something different.
It's so true.
So I'm highly.
I wanted to interview you so much. It's so like exactly like.
So I am high. I am. So when I really wasn't feeling good, I was highly, highly, highly sensitive to that, to the point where if I was watching a TV show and someone banged if there was like a car accident in a TV show or whatever, my eyes physically seeing the impact of a car accident shot like pain down my body because I was so sensitive. Like my nervous system was so sensitive. Or like if my kids started to cry about something, that sound of them crying instantly jolted my nervous system, and I felt a shot of pain pulse through my body. So I was so sensitive in a negative way, but also so sensitive in a positive way. So I think it was off kilter, right? Like when I felt low, I felt really low. When I felt like good, I felt really good. But over time, learned to like adjust the nervous system. But our nervous system is so powerful. Yeah. It's so, so, so powerful. And I'm convinced that most illnesses are related to your nervous system being deregulated. I'm 100% convinced of it.
I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time.
You're welcome.
Away from your family on a Sunday.
That's fun.
Dads need alone time with their kids too. Honestly, I really hope it inspires young people to
it's kind of crazy.
Really like it's a lot of work, but it's what I see when I see you. You're not afraid of hard work. Yeah. It does take work, and it is hard sometimes, and it's not fun to face your fears.
No.
It's not fun to face disease. It's not fun to face anxiety. But when you do, it's worth it in the end. That's what I see when I see your story. It's like, good. It's worth it.
It is worth
all
it.
that hard work.
Yeah.
So here's your random question for the end of our podcast. What are you considering doing that would surprise your family?
What a good question. Okay, well, we didn't talk about this, but after all of this, I am going back to school.
No.
Yes. So I feel like that's going to surprise my family because they don't really know about it yet. So I'm in the very beginning. Well, I'm pretty close. I'm in this beginning stages of, I'm figuring out the finance part now, but I'm going to go back to school. and I want to take human services. So it's essentially trying to help people going through difficult situations in the community. And I feel like after all of this, I have a pretty good base. I'm going to learn a lot more, obviously, in school. But I think I'm mentally and emotionally equipped at this point in my life to be a good candidate to help people now. I wouldn't have been before.
That is
but
so
I am
powerful.